World Qualifiers 2020 Belfast location. Are we ready for Worlds?
Yes!
2021?
Yes!
Keely, Jessica, Maya, Nisha,
Patrick, Jude,
Blanid, Louie, Sophie, Naomi, Aisha, Clara, Luda,
Jesse, Owen, James.
Kira.
And welcome to Be My Guest with me, Mary Honan, on Limerick Media TV, supporting the Samaritans, Limerick and Tipperary. And my very special guest today is the wonderful Gavin Doherty, all the way from Belfast. You're all the time in Belfast now, are you, Gavin?
Yeah. I live just outside Belfast, and then obviously I would go back and forward to New York for classes and fittings and that, although that's been put on hold for a little while. So
yeah, I can imagine. For anyone who doesn't know and will be looking into this wonderful world of Irish dancing and have had no interest or no knowledge of it before now, Gavin Doherty is a world standard teacher who has produced many world champions, both in teams and in solos. But Gavin is also a designer, which we'll be talking about later, and he has many facets to his bow. So, Gavin, where did you start with your dancing career?
I started with a lady, Margaret Keane, in Belfast, and then she kind of gave up, and we then were with the O'Connor's, Fournier O'Connor School of Irish Dancing for quite a while.
Good morning.
And then we were with Frances Curley for most of her dancing career, and then to finish off, I was with exams and everything. The travelling just became a bit too much with A levels, so I finished my dancing career with Kevin Armstrong. So yeah, I've gained a lot of knowledge through the whole way.
You did a tour.
Yeah, well,
but you got a lot of experience from a lot of different.
Absolutely.
Teachers, which is, not to be sniffed at either, really.
No, and when you're in class, I mean, it's more often than not you're going, okay, what would such and such think if they were watching this in class? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the thought occurred to me there, when you said that people say, oh, such a person was we're at different schools. I was at a few different schools as well, but two. But the thing is, you do learn so much from all of them.
Yeah, and everybody has a different way, different perspective on what's important. So yeah, it was really good to gain knowledge from all the different people throughout the years. They were all fantastic.
They all had different styles as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Different styles of teaching. But at what stage did you decide to do your teachers, and why?
I was 21, so or 20. No, it was 20. So I literally danced the Ulster in October and done my teachers in November. I'd always wanted to teach. It was something that I'd always planned on doing. And I'd say for the first couple of years of teaching, I probably regretted not dancing. It was still the competitions, feeling, oh, I'd really like to be still dancing, but there was no going back at that point. So that's if any of our older dancers are thinking of quitting, we always say, like, wait until you know for definite that you're definitely done, and even when you're done, give it another little bit of time before you do anything that you can't go back on. We started teaching. I then moved. I was over in Swindon. I moved over to Swindon.
Right.
I was teaching over there with Michael McInerney for probably the guts of a year.
Okay.
And then when I came back, Shunning and I set up the school.
Johnny is your sister.
Shunning, yeah. And then I have a younger sister, Kiva, who's also teaching in the Belfast part, along with some of the other girls. But they were the family members. So yeah, we started. It's going to be 20 years we've been teaching.
It's a difficult process to actually. I never talked about it up to now, but it's a difficult process to make that decision to give up competing.
Yeah.
Because you can often give up for a year or that, and there's always that pull.
Yeah. Back. Yeah, and you're sitting in a
There's nothing
competition.
like competing.
No. But then as the kids, as the kids better, you kind of get that feeling back whenever they walk on stage, and you get the butterflies in your stomach, and that just never goes. And then I thought, whenever you had kids competing for a world, or even worse, competing to kind of retain a title, I thought that was bad until my niece started dancing, and then that just took it to a whole other level.
It's like having your baby.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it must be completely different. It must be. It's bad enough being a teacher sitting in an audience watching, but to have your own child or your own niece or your own blood up there on the stage, and it must be just. I mean, I was watching a video last night of Yevgeny Plushenko, who's my favorite ice skater ever, and I was looking at his coach at the side, ice cold look on his face. And I'm thinking to myself, I'd be eating the walls, literally, if it was me. But he was doing double luts and treble luts and salkas, and the camera would pan him, and he was just. And I thought that would never happen in Irish dancing, because they've been eating their nails.
I remember it was Blannet's first world, and she had kind of won quite a lot up to that point. And I just remember she walked on stage, and the kid she was ready to start, and the kid in front of her puked. This was for her first dance, and she had to walk back off. And I just remember she got halfway through the first round, and I was the tears were running down my face, just nerves and emotion and everything else. But yeah, definitely, I'd like to say I could teach her, but no, it doesn't. I think it's the whole stress from you wake up that morning, having to get the wig done, get the makeup done, get everything ready, on top of just being normal teacher. It's great having Karen and Lisa as well, to be able to kind of take the pressure off that way. And there's sometimes, in the lead up to it, when we are nervous wrecks, and it's good to have them to be able to just go right.
They're very stabilizing girls. They're very
calm. Totally. And it was whenever Blannet was coming to the championship age that we were chatting to Karen and Lisa, and it is really hard, because we didn't want the rest of the school to obviously Blannet's my niece, and she's Shawnee's daughter, and
you don't want to show favoritism.
No, and we don't want to. We're not going to miss any of her. Anytime she's dancing at a big competition, we're not going to miss her dancing. So we didn't want the other kids to suffer because they might be dancing in another hall. So
that's a very difficult decision for a parent teacher or an uncle teacher, if you like.
Yeah, so it kind of really works well that on the morning Blannet's dancing, that we know that the kids are with their teachers as well, and they're not sort of missing out. Obviously we'll still run back and forward everywhere else, but yeah, it
must be a difficult logistical decision for you, costume wise, suit wise. Having to have all the suits to run into.
Yeah, well, I have to say to match them all.
With
so many halls, and people dancing 2 days, yeah, it proved quite difficult, especially when some of the there was quite a few suitcases brought over last year.
I've just always wondered, Gavin, what it was like, when you're actually there, because you always wear the jacket or something that's matching the dancer.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, God, it must be a logistical nightmare getting from one room to another, being Gavin, getting from A to B, with trying to decide who's the costume, which jacket to wear, or which shirt to wear now.
A few vodkas usually help us help with that. With the
What?
A few vodkas don't do any harm with that, I have to say sometimes.
Just imagining the scenario where you actually turn up on the stage with the wrong colour for the wrong child.
Oh yeah, and the parent then taps you on the back saying, "Here, can you change?" Yeah,
Change.
that's happened.
Has it happened?
You know what it started off as a bit of a joke, and then now it's like, if you don't do it, the kids then think there's something wrong, or you think there's something wrong with their dancing, or
you don't think they're going to win.
Yeah, or you don't think they're good enough. Do you know what I mean?
Good enough to win.
Making sure they feel okay.
Okay, yeah, it's a lovely idea. It's aside from everything else, when you're on the stage receiving the trophy, you all match.
But it's more for just showing the kids a bit of support too. And even, if I have a couple of kids in the competition, there might be different coloured socks or whatever, so that nobody feels left out.
Very good, very good. But Gavin, you decided at some stage, did you always have this flair for fashion?
I was like, my mum made costumes. She also made sort of first communion.
So it was in your blood.
Bridal stuff throughout the years, and I remember whenever she would have been hand embroidering Shawnee's costumes, I had my own piece of fabric, and I would have been sitting beside her doing the chain stitch, and I'm talking about, that was probably at like 6 or 7. I had a blackboard, and I would have always been drawing costumes, even back as far as that. And then when I was probably, I think I was 11, my mum had gone into business with another lady to try and make a go of making costumes, and there was a lady had come in and had wanted a phoenix and flames on her dress, and I'd been drawing Celtic designs and had books and books and books off them, and they were looking through, I think it was the Seven Gates designs at the time, and they couldn't see anything that they wanted, and I'd kind of chirped in, that I could draw that, and my mum was like, shh, blah blah blah.
Right, go away.
Can I see what he would come up with? So yeah, I was 11 when I done my first design on a costume, and then it kind of didn't work out with the costume business for my mum. So my mum ended up taking the embroidery machine home, and just kind of, I would have done the design work, she would have done the embroidery work. In the meantime, I was doing studying. I was had started a degree in math, statistics, and computers, sort of following in Shawnee's footsteps, and I was just.
Is that what Shawneen does?
Yeah, well, Shawnee's a manager in the factory here for me now, but that's what Shawneen was doing. That's what Shawnee's husband does. That's what my younger sister does. That's what my husband. Everyone's sort of.
Where's the comparison between maths, statistics, and?
It was a case of
design.
Yeah, well, it was a case of okay, as far as prospects for a job, what is going down the artistic route ever gonna do? So I was really good at maths, so I went that route. And I remember just sitting in a class one day, it was the statistics class, and just thinking, I cannot do this the rest of my life. So with my student loan, I bought a couple of industrial sewing machines, and mum and dad didn't know this at the time, and my mum had another part-time job, so every time she was out, I was in her house training on the embroidery machines. So I'd started making my own clothes, my own shirts and trousers and stuff like that. And then I come up with a pattern for the costumes of how I thought or how I wanted it to look. And I decided that I was going to try and get a portfolio ready to go back and do something at our college. And I would, for the year while I was trying to get this.
Did you do it?
Ready. No, I never got the chance because the costume business took off. I'd cut 3 dresses out to do up as samples. And the first sample I'd got done, somebody bought it within a few days, and the other 2 samples that I had cut out never got put together because it took off. So yeah, it's kind of learning as you go along. It went from having the embroidery machine, I still have it. Mum's machine is now in my office, so she can come in and out if she feels like it with the whole
I was
COVID
going to
situation.
say, does your mum work at all inside in the business?
Yeah, Mum still comes in and gives us a hand every day. Obviously, it's just, and Dad was, because they're both retired, they would come in and give a hand whenever they could. But yeah, everything was done, went from hand, everything being done on the machine by hand to the computerized embroidery machines.
Do you regret that, Gavin? I mean, I did my primary degree in art and design.
Yeah.
And I can say to you, you took the right route by going down statistics, because it's very difficult to get on the road, if you like, as a designer. That when you actually were as successful as you were right to actually go with the flow and choose to go that way, because sometimes I think art colleges and design colleges can actually take the creativity out of you.
Yeah.
You have all these ideas in your head and they put you in different directions, and sometimes that can actually break your creativity. But do you regret the fact that we went from the embroidered costumes to in the direction they went, or are you happy with the direction that the costumes have gone now?
It probably did go a bit too far for a while when we were using feathers and fur and stuff like that on costumes. I mean, it has gone back to, there's quite a lot of Celtic on the dresses.
Time as well.
Yeah, with having the computerized embroidery machines and being able to do all the design work on sort of computer programs like Adobe Illustrator and stuff like that, it gives you much more scope for design. You're not kind of limited to what you can do by hand on the machine and making sure it's symmetrical and blah blah blah. You know, it opens up a lot more
opportunities.
Yeah, to be creative. It's like anything, everything changes, and even having lockdown given me the opportunity to reassess every process in my business. And that's where with not being able to have the same flexibility of having customers come in for fittings and everything, I had to reassess how I was putting the dresses together, how I was taking measurements, how I was doing up the patterns for the dresses. And that's where having a bit of a maths background really does help when you're when you're working out percentages and angles and everything else for different body shapes. It's kind of, it usually takes a few days to get your brain back into that.
Yeah, because there are some people who are very creative brain, and some people have a very maths brain, and others that are able to combine the two.
Yeah, it definitely does help having as far as creating patterns and coming up with, say I come up with a new skirt style, you know, trying to sort of do pattern making in the likes of Adobe Illustrator does take a lot of sort of mathematics, calculating angles and whatever else. So it does come in handy. So
it's the best of both worlds really for you. It's the best of all worlds for you, Gavin, because you're in an industry, Irish dancing, that you're passionate about, but you're also able to combine, I suppose, your mathematics with your creativity and your dance.
I do feel very lucky to be able to sort of have a career in something that I really love doing, both teaching and making the costumes. I mean, when I first started off, I remember no matter when I was trying to do things like shaping the bottoms of the dresses that normally it would have been just straight around the bottom. I remember Mum saying, "No, you can't do that. It's an Irish dancing costume, blah, 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 blah." And it was kind of one of the reasons why I moved away to England. It wasn't to get away from Mum. Mum was still helping and whatever else, but it was a good way for me just to be free for a little while to
be more creative.
Yeah, just
break barriers.
Totally. And then when I come back, Mum was like, "Okay, I'm going to back off and just let you do what you want to do." You know, I have to say, they weren't, when I announced that I was leaving university to make costumes, it went down like a lead balloon. So,
did it?
Oh yeah, they weren't happy at all. So yeah, it was like, well, I'd already got the machines. I'd already organised the unit.
You've
with
already
the
thrown
machines in the unit, so I was kind of like, right, Mum, you can either I'm doing this anyway, so you're either in or you're not. So she was in.
But do you think having that analytical mind that you obviously had, you've obviously got a creative and an analytical mind. Do you think that that was what helped you to actually realize that this is something that not only I want to do, but will actually be successful? Because you have obviously got a business mind as well, Gavin. I mean, there's a lot of artists out there like myself who are not business orientated. I can come up with the ideas. I could make millions for people, but if I had a business myself, I'd lose just as much as I'd make. Do you think I'm not business orientated at all?
Yeah, I think it just I wouldn't. It probably just happened probably naturally. It's funny, you know. Mum was joking the other week about I was about sort of 10 or 11 again. You know, I was out. I wanted to make money. I wanted to have a business, so I was out cutting people's grass with our lawnmower, trying to because I wanted to be able to buy something at the end of the week. So yeah, maybe I don't know. It was maybe just something that was always there.
Yeah, and you taught on your own for a good long time. It was the Doherty Academy, and then you decided you amalgamated with Lisa and Karen Petrie in New York. How did that logistically work?
How did it work? Well, what happened was we were at a friend, another dancing teacher, Vinny O'Connor. We were over at his 50th birthday party, and I had been making costumes for Karen and Lisa, and we'd been friends for a long, long time. I remember when, you know, as far back as when Shoneen had Blanid, it was just before, she had Blanid just before World Championships. It was the one in Ennis, remember, with the tent.
Oh God, what about that?
Yeah, I was there. So I was basically there on my own with the kids. And it was just, if it could go wrong, it went wrong. It was just one of those weeks that, you know, the kids that one kid was winning it into the set dance and then completely messed up her set dance and blah, blah, blah. And it was like every day you're like, okay, today has to be better. And then another thing would happen. And I just remember Karen and Lise had won their first world with Gabby Woods. And instead of going out and celebrating, they knew that I was feeling a bit under pressure and rough, and they took me out just to make sure that I was okay. So there was a friendship that's been going on a long, long time. But we were at Vinny's birthday party, and we were just sitting chatting, and you know, about how, you know, the kids, apart from competition, the kids sometimes don't have an awful lot. Whenever you're going from one competition to the other, to the American Nationals, to the qualifying, straight into the All Ireland, straight into the World, and you're back into the American Nationals. There's no, you know, when they have a bad day or a bad result, we wanted to give them more than just competition. And when we were chatting, and you sort of remember and thinking back to what we remember the most about dancing, our dancing careers, it wasn't always the day that you got this place of the world, or you know, it was. Oh, I remember. Do you remember whenever we were away with Francis and Olive and staying in the hotel in Manchester, and there was a fire and blah blah blah. You know, it was all that sort of fun stuff.
Or the tent.
Yeah, or the tent.
In the tent. It's something you'll never forget.
Yeah, and it was like, what can we do to give these kids something more than just competition? And you know, we were kind of, you know, we've been both sets. We're both very family orientated. So yeah, and our parents were very involved, and kind of everything. Things were similar that way. We both have a passion and a drive to push the kids really hard as well. And the more we chatted, we were kind of like, you know, we were just feeling a bit fed up, and it's like, you know,
and we've a lot in common.
Blah blah blah. And then we're a few bottles of wine later, we're like, how much fun would it be if we were all teaching together, and the kids could go back and forth and blah blah blah. And then the next day we were joking about it again, and then we started chatting, well, how could this work? And we chatted through more and blah blah blah, and then we thought, you know what, we were at the British Nationals, and we were still kind of unsure whether we should or we shouldn't, or we're still thinking about it. And I just remember Blanet, the day Blanet was dancing, and we had another kid in the other hall, and I didn't want to go into the other hall. Shani didn't want to go into the other hall, and it was kind of like, even the pressure, just because it was one of Blanet's first major competitions, and just that pressure of feeling like we needed to be with the other kids. They were not having a teacher with them when they were dancing, and blah blah blah. And I thought, you know what, this is
too much.
This is the right thing to do.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, I'm just looking there at one of the photographs of Terry and Phillips, Candice in her costume.
Oh, yeah.
Costume. Did you ever think of going down the route of making dancing costumes for pets?
Well, do you know what? It's even now at the minute, you know, you're the whole mask situation, and you're like, right, well, so we've been like making masks for the, like I had planned on going back to uni and having a, you know, doing something still fashion wise, and it's something that I, you know, during lockdown, I was looking into again and have been doing another bit of work on in the background. So yeah, it's something that I'm still planning on doing at some point. It's like anything, when you get back into the swing of dancing and costumes, it's so busy all the time, you don't really have time for anything else. So yeah, it's...
Have you found any advantages, I suppose, with COVID? I mean, Terry was saying he likes to teach, he likes to keep progressing. Once they've learned something, he wants to move on, and he's just a creative person. Whereas Philip likes to drill, and he finds that the Zoom works perfectly because he can focus in on their feet, or he can focus in on their carriage for certain lengths of time. Terry said, oh, that just bores me to tears. Yeah. But to me, it would actually work because I like to drill. And I prefer drilling than actually creating steps. But
I find the creative part of it a bit, like on Zoom, it can be quite difficult because you know, the kids are dancing in a small space. And then it was like, I was working with Blana. She was, while at the first lot of weeks when we were completely on lockdown, I was doing work with her. She was in her garage, and then whenever she tried to dance on a big space, the stuff that looked fantastic dancing on the one spot, it didn't look right whenever you were trying to move. So it's been, in some ways, I think going forward, doing Zoom classes will definitely be, even if things do go back to normal, to have days where the kids don't have to be in the studio and you are just drilling bits and pieces like in a private or whatever. I found that fantastic. Trying to I miss the chasing after them around the floor, and you know, that side of it. It's kind of I miss just having that, even joking, and you can do it to a certain extent on Zoom, but there's nothing like being in the studio with them.
There.
I really do miss that. It's been an eye opener for what can be done from a distance. Like our kids were bored during lockdown, so they were doing their hour and a half class with us in the morning, and then they were jumping on the class with Karen and Lisa and doing a class. So a lot of the time they were doing double classes that you would have thought, like, I think on lockdown we were afraid that the kids might lose interest, but I think dancing was the only structured part of their day. And it was a lot of work, and there was times that you really didn't really want to be sitting in front of a computer for hours. But when you were getting the messages back from the parents, just thanking you for giving the bit of structure to the kids, it kind of made it worthwhile. Yeah, I am really looking forward to getting back into the studio with the kids, but there's still that year of...
Did you not think that, did you see other positives about COVID? I'm thinking, you know, the way it helped people. With you now, you were thinking of going back maybe and doing a design. Did it help you to reevaluate how you said earlier on that it helped you in some way to reevaluate how you were actually running your business? Exactly. and the designs and the costumes? That has to be good though, Gavin, because it gives you, because your brain must have been just on overdrive. I mean, between the dancing, between the business, between making the costumes, being there for the parents, trying to be there for Blanet, all of that, and suddenly you're forced to just shut down and relax and do things and take a step back and reevaluate.
Like my dad passed away just at the start of lockdown, his funeral was on the Monday, and lockdown was announced on the Tuesday. So having that couple of weeks of just being able to kind of get your head around it, although I don't think any of us really have got our head around it. Mum, and that was with me, Mum sat knitting and I sat crocheting for the first couple of weeks, and then I was kind of like,
Relaxing though.
it was back in November, December last year, and I was literally at breaking point of,
I can imagine,
just trying to keep dancing going, keep the business going, there was a list of things that I wanted to fix and change and do, and I just remember maybe I just prayed too hard for a break, and we really got along.
And you were on overdrive as well with your dad.
Yeah, I was kind of like, after the first couple of weeks, what I thought was going to take me a month to try and do really did take 3 months. Even down to, I moved some of the embroidery machines home into my garage to do testing of how I can improve the quality of the embroidery. I relearned the digitizing process. I basically went back to the start and looked at every single process the whole way around the floor, from how we put the dresses together, how we measure, how we do the pattern making, blah blah blah, and just at the minute it kind of feels like we've started a new business all over again. It's been really nice. Obviously at the minute things are still, it's not as busy as what it was now. We're very busy come August, September, October, we're back fully booked again for the qualifyings. But to be honest, I really needed that time, to go through my list of things that I'd wanted to improve and change for a long time, but just never really got the chance.
And how do you think that, how do you think that things are going, are things going to get back to our, I hate this new phrase, this new normal, to me it's just, but how do you think things are going to come back, say, for competitions and for the mere fact of actually fitting a child for their costume? Do you know this craze of social distancing at the moment? Do you know?
Well, what we've started doing was, previously what we would have had was people would have come in and we would have tried different parts of the dress on them throughout the day. We would have had fitting days where we might have had sort of 4 or 5 people in the one day. Obviously that has changed because of our new sort of measuring, because of the way we've changed the processes. We have now had customers come in. They come in for they've been in, tried the dress on, we make a minor adjustment, and they've been able to go home. So it's just been nice to see that all the hard work that I've put in over the past couple of months is paying off. So where the person would have been in all day long, there's not really a need for that anymore. There's some other bits and pieces that we're doing with the overseas customers to try and make sure that even their dress is a perfect fit, because we would have traveled a lot to the competitions and had a dressmaker just to do minor alterations. So we don't really have we don't know what way that's going, and yes, hopefully that'll happen again. But we've had as I said, we've had to reevaluate how we do things to make sure that perfect fit can still be achieved without having sort of having a person there to do it on them. Obviously there's no fit. You don't get a better fit than having the person beside you and doing the talks. It doesn't matter how many measurements you take, but you can get very, very close to it. And that's what we're working towards. So basically now, with the social distancing, the kids have to come in with the kids and the parents. They come in with the mask on. The dressmakers have their mask and face shield on whenever they're going out. And it's different than what it was before. But I think at the start, everyone was thinking, okay, after lockdown, this is just going to go away and we'll all go back to normal. But it doesn't seem to be happening that way. So even as far as competitions go, I think people are just now having to realize, okay, we need to rethink how we're going to work this, have people in smaller groups, blah, 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 blah. But, we all know there's a lot of people with a lot of brain power in commission and whatever else that'll find a way around it. I know the ice skating and gymnastics have all sort of, even down to the soccer, not having fans in, they're still able to play. I'm sure there'll be a way around it.
Yeah. But, I was thinking there earlier when you were talking about with the Petries and go and wanting something more for the children out of competition rather than competition, not necessarily all competition focused, and that's probably helped you now because with the Zoom, people, children are starting to realize that it's not all about competition. It's about the friends that you've made within the dancing classes, and it's about the connection with your teacher one way or another, whether it's through Zoom or through physical contact or communication. But you would have made a lot of friends down through the years in Irish dancing that you probably competed against, and some that you probably didn't compete against or didn't even really know during competition. But our world is, as I said to somebody before, to Danny, it's like a global city that we've made into a village, because we're all from all over the world, but yet
we have something in common.
And I think Zoom has made it even smaller.
Yeah, I think the kids miss the kids. I mean, although you're in a Zoom class and the kids are all there, they don't have the time in between dances where they can sit and have fun or talk to their friends, and because same as most kids, our kids are here probably more often than they're in their own houses coming up to competition times, and I think the kids are missing that part of it. Zoom is great for keeping the classes going and keeping the kids fit and keeping them interested, but there's more to dancing and even more to dancing classes than just the dancing part of it. And I think that's
the memories you make within the dancing.
Yeah, the kids are missing that.
Yeah, I mean, I find Zoom, from these little interviews and things like that, great from the point of view of, we probably never would have got the opportunity to sit down and talk for an hour or whatever with each other about our lives outside of, you just look and you see Gavin Doherty, this highly successful dancing teacher and costume designer. But it's to try and, I suppose, get to understand Gavin Doherty, the person behind it. Why did you go down that route? And and people, I think people are starting to see each other in a different light.
I think also people see me wearing a pink suit and the thing, and those that don't know me probably think, oh, he's
but only you could wear it, for Gavin.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I think people that don't know me can sometimes think, oh, he must be really cocky. He thinks that he's going to win, and it's not that at all. It's more about
support for your child.
And it's almost now expected, and if I don't do it, it feels like there's something wrong. And although I might be wearing the pink suit, I might have, my stomach is in knots, and I'm probably as nervous, if not more nervous than everybody. So I have heard things back. Oh, he thinks he's blah 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 and whatever, but I can't change people's opinion. But it's.
But it's an image as well that people make. I think people make assumptions about people all the time, and they're never the correct assumptions.
No.
I grew up and people always thought, because I was an only child, because I was always with my parents, that I was a snob in the area I was in.
Yeah.
They couldn't have been further from and it's only as they got to know me that they thought, God, we were so wrong about that, and people make assumptions about people, and they're never right. I mean, do you know?
Well, the one thing I would say about the outfits and that, it was...
Well, I, as a designer, would never have thought that of you, Gavin. I'd never...
No, well, it was whenever the movie, The Joker, whenever I was watching that, and the kids had been like sending pictures and whatever, they had went to see it, and I hadn't seen it for a while, and I'm sitting watching it, and next thing he came out in the teal suit with the mustard waistcoat, and I'm like, oh my God, I have literally worn that before.
I don't think you've had a yellow suit, have you yet?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah. There was one with just behind you, Niamh Neal. Yeah, I had the full yellow suit.
As I was saying it, I was looking at Niamh Neal behind you, and I was saying, I did. Probably had one for her.
Yeah, no, but it was one of Blannett's dresses, and it was pretty much exactly what the Joker was wearing in the movie, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
Did he copy you or did you copy him?
Oh well, I definitely had worn mine first. I had definitely worn mine first.
There you go. He copied you. But you never answered. Are you going to make the costumes like Candice was wearing? Well, Terry for his interview sent me a photo of Candice in her costume.
Right.
And it was Candice was moving too much and the whole photo was blurred, so I couldn't use it. And so he came on and Philip tried to put the costume on, and he said she had the COVID bulge. The costume, he said, like a lot of us, the costume wouldn't zip up on her.
Oh yeah, we are fighting that a lot. The emails are now that people are coming. It's coming to kind of competition time. People are trying on the costumes, and it's like, oh yeah. I think we're getting a lot of phone calls about trying to get people squeezed in.
But it's a pretty spectacular costume on her.
Yeah.
On Candice, you know, who would have thought of it? But I just thought, Gavin will start making costumes now because they used to make them for the dolls before.
Yeah, we would do that around Christmas time if we get a bit of time. Sometimes we would do some work for Santa Claus. You know, Santa Claus would put in some orders for matching dresses. So yeah, we usually would do the dolls' dresses. Again, it's just getting the time. Although, who knows what's going to happen with competition? We might have the time.
Your mother must be incredibly proud of you. I mean, that you spent your loan, your student loan, on two industrial machines instead of going back to do analytics.
Yeah, well, I think at the time, no, she wasn't, but yeah, I think they are now.
She must be incredibly proud.
Yeah, Mum's still an expert on the embroidery machines, even the computerized machines. When you have a bit that runs off, it's not that easy to go back and fix on the machine. So Mum would do a lot of repairs and that for us still, and bits and pieces. So.
What do you when you started dancing, and you're a young man, but when you started dancing, have you seen much of apart from the costumes? I mean, there's a big leap in the costumes. Yeah. I mean, when you look at some of the costumes that were really fashionable, really long, now, and you look at them and you think, God, the costumes are width-wise, they're wider than the length of the child. Yeah. They really swamped them, but they were of their time and they looked fabulous. And you obviously find a difference in the costumes over the years, but the dancing, how has it changed for you?
I still like a bit of tradition in there. But it's like anything. When you're working with different kids have different abilities, and different kids have parts of their dancing that suit them. You might have someone that's fantastic at rocks and fantastic at cross crease and blah blah. You get some kids that are all rounders. You get some kids that their thing is they have fantastic extensions, so you kind of, or fantastic rhythms, so you kind of try to show off what their best sort of features are in their dancing. So, and even with the costumes, like what suits one kid wouldn't suit another. Some kids that are sort of sometimes a quieter personality need something loud to kind of balance that sort of timidness. Other people just suit a more traditional style with Celtic embroidery. I think it just really depends on the child and the dancer. So
that's a backdrop now with some of your winners.
And it's like anything, you see a bit of fabric, or I'll be kind of doing a bit of research to see what I can push it on to the next time. And the other times that I go back and look at what I've done 10 or 15 years ago and get inspiration from that to redo something old in a new way.
Do you borrow from the past? You're very postmodernist. You'd look to the past and you'd look at the costumes that you did in the past, and you'd say, oh, something like that now would suit this child, but bring it into a more contemporary.
Totally.
And even borrowing from the past. Yeah,
and when you're working with certain teachers, sometimes they have an idea of what they like for their whole school. For example, say them calls. when I'm doing work with them, they prefer a much more traditional style. So it's kind of, you're always like, even you look at a photograph from 30, 40 years ago, and I'm like, okay, that might work for one of their kids, or, other teachers other kids that are maybe coming up for a dress that I know are coming up in 6 months. I'll see something and go, okay, right, park that idea, scribble it down here, so that when it comes to their costume, I can kind of have a bit of an idea of, or even sometimes whenever I'm watching a kid dance, even if they're not in our school, it makes it easier to know what to do for them and what's going to work for them.
What do you think of, and I've asked Jimmy Smith we were talking about it, and the price of costume, the price of costumes. What do you think of the criticism that is from some areas, like parents, or like you'd see it on social media and that, about the costumes and the wigs and the price of, have you an opinion on that, Gavin? You would, I'd imagine. One of the big costs in the costumes are the crystals that are going on it, and there is an expectation from parents that they want the costumes to be really, really sparkly. And there's times on the costumes just to buy the crystals are nearly what people are paying for the dress again. And when you consider the amount of work goes into creating the costume, as far as just putting the stones on, sometimes that can be a little bit annoying. But like, as time has gone on, expectations from customers have changed, and there's a lot more, there's a lot more work is now involved in the design process. For us, creating the design and that sort of going back and forth with the teacher, going back and forth with the customer, making sure, we've had to change how we do things, because going back, say, 15 years ago, people would have put in an order for a black and gold dress, and then I made a black and gold dress, and on the day, they didn't really see the dress until they come up that day for the fitting, or it arrived in the post. Now, I couldn't abdicate that much control to anybody. I'm a bit of a control freak.
Yeah, I am too, to be fair.
Gavin, I mean, could you imagine you handing over that? They must be very, very.
Most of the kids, like the kids in our own school, would really, I mean, at the end of the day, I know them inside out.
You know their personalities,
blah, blah, blah. But even still, now we're kind of looking at just, parents are, they're paying a lot of money for a costume. They want to know what they're getting. So, a lot of the time we'll send it, even their own class, we'll send them an approval just to make sure that they're happy with it. But that process going back and forth with the customer adds so much more time on.
But do you think that, there's always this, you see it on social media, you see it on the newspapers and that, about it being expensive. I have a personal view. I think you could be signing and trying to pay for to get your child out of jail, on half the time. You could be worried because they're in with the wrong crowd. And I'd rather spend it, personally, I would rather spend it. And I know my mother would have, as an only child, she would have, she would have spent anything on me. And certainly when it came to costumes, to design my costumes. Yeah. And then a tailor friend of hers used to make them. And but I would rather spend that on my child's costume and on their shoes and on their dancing, something that they loved, or on their music, than have to be worrying about them in a hospital.
I mean, our parents got themselves into debt and danger just to keep us travelling up and down to Dundalk for dancing classes. Yeah, and that was never mind costumes, never mind anything else. But they knew the area we lived in, they wanted to make sure that we didn't have time to go out and run the streets or get involved in anything that we shouldn't have got involved in. And I think knowing how much our parents sacrificed to keep us in dance, and it does make me conscious whenever I'm working with people, and we would, I don't want to blow my own trumpet or anything like that, but I would say, like, as far as customer service goes, we would probably be the best. There's times that costumes don't, someone will pick something, or they'll send in wrong measurements, and we try to accommodate people's mistakes or wrong decisions without charging them as much as we can, because I know how hard it is to pull the money together for a dress. So as you know, I think.
But the first dress that they buy is probably the most expensive, because after that, you see them at the fashion, and even at my own fashion, they're selling on, and they're usually all the designers' costumes are usually getting a good resale value, and then it makes it that little bit easier. But you know, I mean, you know. Do you like the wigs? Do you like the whole look? Do you think it's gone too far, or do you think it's not gone far enough?
It has gone too far. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we tried to go and do stuff without the wigs, and we tried to put the kids' hair down, and
it didn't look right. It didn't.
No, and people, then you were getting feedback from people saying, "Oh no, I don't like that." So it was like, okay, fine, then we'll just go back to the wigs. Like, we have some of the kids. I would be fanatical about shapes and about, you know, how I want things to look, even as far as the hair goes. And, you know, more often than not, the kids get the wigs and I'll style them and change them. It was like, you know, Ciara Loughran's wig, Aisha Coyle's wig, you know, they were, and then the wig makers have then sort of taken that idea and you know, created wigs just the same.
I think from my point of view, the wigs create a very good equality. Because I mean, I was the type of a child. I always had dead straight hair, straight. I mean, I could spend the whole night in rollers,
and it wouldn't make any difference.
5 minutes, I wouldn't even get through one dance, and my hair was dead straight. Now the costumes were relative. I mean, my costume would have been ornate, but for the time, but it was. But still, you could have straight hair. Now everyone, no matter how short their hair is, how straight it is, how wiry it is, they can just put it up in a bun, and 5 minutes later they have a beautiful bun wig, or they have a beautiful, and there's an equality there. There's a sense of equality.
And I think when you're involved in dancing, you don't even notice the wigs anymore. I think from you're looking in, yes, they probably do look a bit big and a bit ridiculous, but then when the kids don't have the wigs on, it does look, as you say, it does look unbalanced. And going back, you know, it is so much, rather than having somebody sleeping in rollers all night and ruining their actual hair, being able to stick a wig on, it is a hell of a lot easier.
5 minutes later, the wig is off and they're back to their normal hair. There's no pain involved apart from having to sit there to put on the wig. I put on wigs on children as well, and you know, the relief. You know, when they're getting them on, I'm thinking to myself, that would have been fantastic when I was good at dancing, because you know, you never got a night's sleep before a competition, a full night's sleep. You turn over and you were in agony.
Exactly.
Do you know, now I can't understand people like Amy Mae Dolan wearing a wig with such fabulous hair. I used to look at her and think, God, she is blessed with the most magnificent head of hair, and others like her. What was that girl's name? She went to Edward and Byron. Nadia, she's blonde. She had really tight curly hair.
Nadine
Coyle, Nadine Martin. And she had really tight hair, and I used to think, if I had hair like that, I wouldn't wear a wig like the two of them, you know. But that, you know, for people like me, it's just wonderful. Do you know? So where to for you now, Gavin? With the you know, the dancing has been good to you, and you've made lots of friends.
Totally, and it's a way of life, you know. I am really looking forward to getting the kids back into.
And I just want to say to Gary Healy that it is tea that's inside of my cup, because Gary wanted to know. He says he's laughing at me with the big mug. He said, "Is it really tea, Mary?" And when you're interviewing me, he said, "I don't want it to be tea." I said, "Well, I'm daft enough without drinking alcohol."
I'd add more into it.
You know, it's tea. It's definitely tea. But where to for you now, Gavin?
Just pushing on with the costumes. Like, I have a load of ideas that I had set up, you know, that I was going to come out for the costumes for the world. So yeah, I'm still working on that. Just creating new designs, and again, just new ways of doing things to make the product better quality, and we're always trying to improve service and everything else, and having a bit of time off kind of has allowed us to do that. I'm looking forward to getting back to competition. Even the kids, when you're talking to the kids, I think, and even the parents, although they might have complained about going to faces every other weekend or whatever, now that they haven't been able to do it, they're dying to get back to a face and dying to get back to a competition, because the kids need something to work for.
I think it gives people, I suppose, a healthy kind of respect when as well, because you get war weary when you're teaching every day, and you're making the costumes, or you're going to dancing class.
Yeah.
Sometimes people take people for granted as well in dancing, and teachers are taken for granted, and
150%.
it's taken for granted that children are going to be coming in every day. Jimmy Smith said he wouldn't care if he was 7 hours or 14 hours a day teaching total beginners. He said, just to have them in again, he said, inside the class, and the children feel the same. It's made, I suppose, it's made people appreciate each other, maybe, hopefully, a little bit more.
We've taken the month of July off just to have a break from Zoom, and we always take July off and then start back in August. And it was funny, we expected, when we said to the kids, because we've been pushing them pretty hard, rather than them just doing jigs and hornpipes and reels and slip jigs, we've been kind of doing a lot of fitness training with them that you don't always get the time to do. Yes, you do on the little bit of off season, but we've been driving really hard with the kids. So whenever we said we were taking July off, we were expecting a bit of a brilliant. We'll have it. We're going to be free at the from use for a while, and it was the complete opposite. The kids were devastated that there was going to be no class for a couple of weeks. So which again was nice too. I think they miss being driven the same way.
Nothing else. They've spent their whole lives from an early age, taking instruction and having a routine, and suddenly that routine. There's nothing worse, I suppose, for anyone really, than to be thrown out of your routine.
And it's like, sometimes the kids, when they're hitting that sort of 13, 14, 15, 16 age, and they're under a bit more peer pressure to go out with their friends and, not be as focused on dancing. I think, they always have they have that thing, well, God, if I wasn't doing this, I could do this or whatever. I think a lot of the kids, it's given them the opportunity to see and to realize how much they need dancing in their lives. Otherwise, there's a big void.
Because the dancing, as well as everything else, gives them a sense of belonging, a sense of, I suppose, comradeship, a sense of discipline that they carry into their schooling. And now they haven't got their schooling either at the moment, and that's all up in a heap. If you listen to the radio when I was coming in, and they're now talking about trying to put children into pods of 4 and 5 in a pod, and special needs children and children who aren't special needs, all into these little pods, and they're going to be taking on a couple of hundred more teachers. It's not going to happen. I mean, they hadn't got the teachers, and they're going to be taking on, I think it's 400 or hundreds more, they said, as special needs teachers and temporary teachers. It's not going to happen.
No.
People have got to live. And
but
they're on their lives.
Yeah, even as far as the kids, just on the mental side of the lockdown, having the kids do exercise, and it does create endorphins. It does make them, I know myself, if I'm struggling and working under pressure and I go to the gym or go out for a run, you do clear your head. You do it does keep you sane. So I think having the dancing and the exercise, as well as, outside the competition part and all the rest, has been good for the kids. And you were asking earlier on about Zoom. Most of our kids, doing the privates with them on Zoom, I think have been fantastic, because you do have they're, you know, kids that maybe would have struggled in the past, you can see some of them, all of a sudden they're in their own environment, they've no distractions around them, and they're actually able to take it in more whenever they're in their own,
And they're able to
living room.
focus maybe on their feet more than they would have normally, because they might have been focusing so much on the steps
or what's going on around them,
or what's going on around. Now you have full attention on their feet, you have full attention on their hands, you have full attention on their arms or on the carriage.
And even like we have some kids that travel as well, and you know, like there's one kid in particular, Aisha Coyle, she gets on a bus for 2 hours each way up and down to Belfast 4 times a week, and it's been good that, okay, she's going to be doing A levels. If
She's
things
long
do
distance,
normal,
2 hours every day, 2 hours
on the bus
to the class and 2 hours home.
Yeah, every
and
that's
day.
commitment. Do you know what I mean? She does her homework on the bus, and she never misses a class.
You don't get to be, I suppose, a world champion without putting in that much dedication.
Even for the likes of her, Mary, it's kind of been a way of going, okay, we might be able to work in one day where you don't have to come up for class because of Zoom, and you can do that. Of course, there's no replacement for being in a class and dancing in a big space, but you know, when kids are doing exams,
it's not even about the class. It's not even about the dancing. It's not even about the class for these children. It's about getting out. It's for children like me that was an only child. It's about getting out and meeting your friends and seeing somebody else your own age.
Yeah.
That you have things in common with, and that's
exactly. I found whenever we were on lockdown and I was doing the machine testing and working, and there was days that there was a full week where I didn't leave the house at all. By the end of that week, I could just feel agitated and irritable, and I didn't really know what it was, and it was because I didn't leave the house. You know, the other weeks I might have been coming over to work still when there was nobody here and doing little bits in here, and just actually leaving the house, getting into the car and having a change of environment, you know, really helped. So yeah, I think
feeling that you're part of the world.
Yeah.
Well, Gavin, I just want to thank you so much for actually being my guest today. You were absolutely amazing, and you are doing extraordinary work. I don't know how you do it. You know, you have so many balls in the air. And
I have struggled with that a little bit. I have to be honest. You know, you kind of yearn to have, when you're in the run up to the World Championships and you're working through the night for days at a time, and you kind of you yearn, you just would give anything at the time to have a break and have a bit of time to yourself, and then all of a sudden you've been given all this time to yourself and you miss that buzz and that feeling of being so busy and so under pressure. You know, some people, I think I know I work better under pressure.
So do I.
And now I can go, rather than hating that feeling of being under pressure, I now know that I need that in my life. So when I maybe rather than hating it, the next time it happens, I'll be able to embrace it and go.
I think it's a product of our background, of our what we were brought up in. I think if you're brought up in any form of, say, sport or dance or Irish dancing, well, there's obviously the competitive instinct, but there's also the juggling of balls. There's the schooling, the family life,
totally.
Your friends outside of dancing, your dancing, your competition, and just being alive as well. You know, there's everything going on, and you're juggling. You spend your whole life as I think Irish dancers spend their whole life juggling so many things that nobody sees, but so it equips you for a job like we're doing. Like I was up, you know, I could stay up until 7 o'clock editing shows.
Yeah. And
look at the clock and think, Jesus, it's 7 in the morning, and I'm still up.
Yeah, I kind of do that. You get your teeth into something and you can't let it go. Yeah, it wouldn't be. I think most people that come to me for costumes, the teachers know that I'll be sitting through designs at 4 and 5 in the morning sometimes, just because sometimes it's nice whenever everyone else is in bed, just having that sort of headspace to keep going. Yeah.
that silence. Nobody can understand. If one more person, friends of mine and colleagues here, say to me, "Can't you go to bed at 10 o'clock and get up at 7?" I just can't do that. I could get up at 12 and go and be up still at 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, it's just. I think, I don't know what it is.
Then I go to bed I go to bed and wake up 2 hours later, and then I'm thinking of, what can I do here? Oh, do you know what? That step's not right. I need to fix that. Da, 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 da. And then before you know it, it's just easier to get up.
And that was me when I was doing the PhD, and I was doing and teaching dancing and trying to start this radio station. And then we started the Zoom, and then when the show is ended, you have to go away and you've got to edit it all, and you've got, I don't have to edit anything, but put in all the photographs that are at the back here to try and bring them to the front, so that people who can't be seen in the back, their heads are cut off, will be seen in the front, you know. Trying to be fair to everyone. And so it's just, your brain is always just on fire.
And thank you very much for asking me to come on.
You're very welcome, Gavin. It was my pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Long may you continue to be successful, and everyone in the industry. I wish everybody huge success, and I hope
it is a little bit.
This
has given us a bit scary. Yeah, it was a little bit scary at the, when you're so used to having an income and paying people's wages, and I employ up to 40 people sometimes here in the factory. So you're not just worried about yourself, you're worried about, and we've had to make some redundancies because we've had to reduce things in size and whatever else, and it's never a nice thing to have to do. So it'll be nice whenever things get back to normal.
Well, on that point, and I wish it gets back to normal for every one of us now, and all the costume designers and all the dancing teachers out there,
absolutely.
And all the children and the parents. And Gavin Doherty, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you, Mary. God bless. I'll see you soon.
Bye. See you soon.
Hey everyone. Hope you and your families have been staying safe, and that everyone has been working hard and staying fit using their Zoom classes. I know it's no replacement for the studio, but it'll be great to be in good shape for when we all get back. It's great to see things start to open up again as we embrace the new normal. I know our social media accounts have been a bit quiet lately while we've been waiting on government guidance as when we can safely start working again, but I wanted to let you know that we're still here as we always are to help our customers through this. We've been making really good use of the time over the past 2 months to review how we do things, with endless hours and many sleepless nights having gone into developing and testing our new processes to make sure we keep you and our staff safe, but also provide you with an even better Our Designs experience. At the end of the week, we're going to do a little unveiling of our own and give you a little insight into what our new procedures will be and details of our reopening plans, so that we're ready to go whenever you are. It feels really good to be back and get stuck back in again. We'll see you all again at the end of the week.